pass you over to Oliver and Nicole from Yolk Recruitment, and they've got some slides, and they're going to talk to you specifically about job search and contact with employers.
Thank you. That was actually really helpful for me.
Yeah, I learned quite a lot there.
We got to these slides, so
You're more than welcome. Yeah.
how many of you want to become a solicitor or barrister? Like, show of hands. How many? Oh, there you go. Maybe we'll see you soon then. So, yeah, I started, went off all my jollies to Bristol and did criminology with law. So at the time, I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to be a solicitor. I was thinking, do I want to go to the police? Not quite sure. So actually didn't major in law. So my pathway would have been having to do a GDL to major in law and whatnot. So it just didn't go to plan. But while I was at uni, I did the sort of approach that you mentioned there, Paris, about like direct approach, and started just reaching out to a load of law firms. I landed my job as a legal admin. At first I was obviously like, someone in admin and blah, blah, blah. But I was only in that role within like 6 weeks, I think it was, and then I was promoted up into like paralegal position. And then was working a more like, sexier sort of work, the corporate commercial stuff, going to nice networking events, getting paid to get drunk, which was really fun. And then, yeah, I started looking around and thinking, is it really what I wanted to do? And looking at the pathways that I could have done, because I didn't really want to do the GDL, because it just seemed very intense. And then sort of looked at Silex, and then COVID hit, and then that was me done. So went into recruitment and been there since, and it's been going great. So here I am now giving my story to you lot to try and help you instead. So yeah, I'll pass it over to Al. He's probably more of an interesting story and qualified. So
Well, I certainly wasn't paid to get drunk, unfortunately. That was very reassuring, wasn't it? But no, my story is very similar. I went to Cardiff University and graduated in 2011. Got my foot in the door as a paralegal at New Law Solicitors. I'm not sure if many of you have heard of New Law, but they are personal injury specialists. I made a direct approach to them, and it really helped me sort of get that initial grounding in a law firm. And from there, then I progressed into a conveyancing firm, which gave me the opportunity to study the Silex. And obviously, if I can just share my experiences of that, it was, you know, the company would sponsor you to study modules of your choice. Because they were a conveyancing firm, I had to do conveyancing as one of those modules. And then prior to qualifying, I would submit a work-based learning portfolio. Where you document all the work that you've done, which is relevant to that particular portfolio and requirements set out. And then in 2017, since then, I've been working as a fee earner in property law. That gave me exposure to working, you know, in high volume places where they dealt with property transactions all over the country. And I've also worked then at a smaller high street practice, so it gives me a really good overall understanding of working in the legal knowledge, in the legal industry. And all of that then sort of came to a standstill during COVID, and I had a time to reflect on what I wanted to do. And I fancied a change of career. And that's when I thought, well, I could apply my industry knowledge to then going into recruitment. And maybe that's going to be relevant to some of you guys, because some of you might have aspirations to become a solicitor and a barrister like I did many years ago. And then you might think, well, actually, I fancy, you know, trying my hand at something else. And it's all about having those transferable skills, which is going to help you, whether it's in law or whether it's, you know, in another industry. So the purpose, obviously, of what we're here to do today is to talk to you about recruitment, what we do. We're here to tell you about the key things on a CV, the things that you should do, things that you shouldn't do, and what's going to stand out and separate you from everybody else and really make your application stand out. We'll talk about the different pathways to qualification. I've just alluded to the Silex, and also give you an insight into what the current labour market is like. we'll talk about the different areas of law that you could venture into upon qualifying, and also the variety of entry-level jobs that's available for people like yourself in your position. And we'll also then conclude then on the law firms that we work with, and give you advice on how you can start that search. And after that, hopefully there'll be some questions that you might want to ask, and we'll obviously endeavour to help.
Yeah, so I'll just take you through recruitment, what we do, what sort of connections we have. And I think a lot of what we do, you don't really notice. So as recruitment agents, our whole purpose is to get candidates, place them into jobs, help you get a job and help companies find the right candidates. But behind that goes, a lot of work that we need to put in. So we call it like the iceberg. So you only see the top part, but what we do in between is the networking, the workshops, the interview preparations, helping you with the CVs, giving you this market research, which we won't go too much into detail on today, because otherwise we'll be here all day. But we're always here to help, basically, and every step of the way, whether it's something we get you into the job or not. If we could just give you a bit of advice, then great. So, in terms of, so in terms of legal itself, we have quite a good network of clients. We work with more or less all of the law firms across Wales, Bristol, and the Southwest. Most of those firms have offices all over, but we work predominantly in these areas. So we are the main sponsor for the Law Society and for the Junior Lawyers Division. Just to touch on the Junior Lawyers Division, if there was anyone here who in the future want to come to some of the events, or that's, as Karis mentioned, probably a great place to network, because there'll be people up to 5-year PQE, some of the actual partners will be there, some of the people who are not yet qualified, or, everybody at different leases of life. And I guarantee you'll walk out there with so many different names, so many different connections that will help you in the future looking for your next job. You mentioned the Law Gazette. We work with them as well to promote our jobs on there. So we can, again, all those exclusive jobs that you don't necessarily get to see on websites, we have usually got them on our systems to put you in the right place if we can't put you forward for it. Like you mentioned, networking events, as you mentioned, we're more or less everywhere all the time. There's always something going on, always something in the diary. So again, if there was something that you saw coming that was on our LinkedIn pages where people always get in touch and see ways in which you can get into that as well. As I mentioned, we work with all of the law firms across Wales, Bristol, South West, and Ollie himself has about, I'm not sure how many years, 12 years experience in law?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I've got about 5. And our team in legal itself are made up of solicitors, legal assistants, paralegals, all sorts. We all come from law backgrounds, so we've all done our own different bits to get where we are. So trying to help you navigate where you go next is basically what we're here for. So yeah, more than happy to do that.
Yeah, so obviously, you need to know what's going to help you to stand out from your competitors. And whilst you might all be friends in this room, at the end of the day, when you go out into the real world, you will be competing against one another for jobs. So you need to know how to stand out. And the thing that always, obviously, that we look for on CVs, particularly with graduates or with people looking for entry-level jobs, include as much relevant information at the very top of the CV. We would always say put the most recent thing at the top. And you might be thinking, well, I need experience in order to get experience. And I must admit, that's probably one of the most deflating conversations to have with candidates when they haven't been successful with a job, is to tell them that unfortunately don't have enough experience. And usually the response is, well, how am I supposed to get it? So we're here today to tell you, put yourself out there to try and get placements, whilst you can, work experience. This program that you've got with the university is an amazing opportunity to get your foot in the door, get some legal skills under your belt, and include those on your CV. The CV is an opportunity for you to really sell yourself. I've put there customer service-based skills because any job that you're in at the moment, you will have to deal with the public, and that gives you an opportunity to really hone in on your customer service skills. You might think, well, I'm working in a shop, or I'm working in, McDonald's or a coffee shop, for example. How is that going to help? And you need to really focus on those skills, working as a team, being organised, being able to follow instructions. All those key skills are going to really help you stand out when looking for that first job in law. And if you can really hone in on the transferable skills, then of course you give yourself a really good chance of getting that opportunity. Mooting competitions. I mean, this room looks like it's set up for a moot, and I remember doing mooting in university. It was a great experience. It didn't have any of this sort of fancy setting. It was mainly a basic seminar room, but it gives you that opportunity to stand in front of your peers and talk, and it helps you to improve your communication skills, your presentation skills, and that will really score points in your favour. So as many incentives as you can. Get involved with them. Get involved with your law society. Every university will have a law society, and the more events that you can attend in that capacity, it will help yourself as much as anyone, because you will be meeting with people, and the more you meet with people, the more confident you become, the more of a familiar face you will be. So really take advantage of those opportunities. I remember as well, when I was in university, we had a pro bono scheme which offered free legal advice. It was really interesting. It was people who were in prison, and they were seeking free legal advice, contesting obviously the prosecution and the fact that they've been, they were behind bars. And the purpose of that project is to provide that service to try and help them and provide them with the advice that might help their application. And that kind of really helps that would look great on a CV. If you could show a prospective employer that you've been involved in that you've worked on a case, that you've assisted a solicitor, that would always be helpful. And as has been mentioned previously as well, work experience, whether it's, it might just be 1 week, 2 weeks, but it gives you that sort of edge in terms of, you've been there, you've done these placements, you've been able to work under the guidance of a managing partner in a law firm, and that really will help you to stand out as well. And don't be afraid with the online internships. I know that's a big thing as well these days. Get involved in them and really obviously put yourself out there and get as much experience as possible, because that will eventually help you get that first job, and that I'm confident that is what will make you stand out for an employer. There's obviously different pathways to qualification. The most common one, and the one that probably you will be more interested in, is the LPC. And that of course is still the qualification route that a lot of employers still prefer. But as I mentioned, I qualified by a SILEX, and the SILEX enables you to study whilst also working. So you get that hands-on experience, practical experience, whilst you're in the middle of doing your studies. And more recently, the Law Society has introduced the SQE, which Keris obviously alluded to earlier. I put there as well the CLC. Again, people in the industry that I used to work in conveyancing, there's an opportunity there to specialise as a chartered licensed conveyancer. That's what CLC stands for. And it gives you an opportunity then to, again, work alongside your studies and gain that practical experience. So be open to the different methods of qualifying, and because ultimately it gives you a real insight into what it's like working in law, which you just simply wouldn't get in a classroom.
Yeah, so thank you. Every time I read these slides, I think I learn more and more every time. So with the current market, I thought it'd just be quite useful for you to know, what the busy sectors of law at the moment, who are paying the most, ultimately that's what we all want to know, isn't it? So I think what we tend to see a lot as consultants in law is the corporate stuff, the commercial stuff, family, property law, and banking seem to be like the niche areas of law where, those kind of candidates are quite hard to find and usually most well paid. So just an insight there if anyone wants to know. But a good starting point for everybody, I think, to get your foot in the door is to go into something like conveyancing. Personal injury is not what everybody wants to end up doing, but it's always a really good starting point because of the skills that you get from it. So you find with conveyancing, you find with personal injury that they're quite high caseloads, meaning that all those skills that you can transfer to other roles is really, really helpful. And as I mentioned on there, it's that, it's one of those things you think you could probably get that in a lot of things, but those in particular, I think is something that you should all definitely look into when starting out your legal career. We work with a number of firms in particular that look for entry-level people going into this. So if you were looking to get your foot in the door and being a solicitor was on the agenda for you, then just get in contact. I can put you in the right direction. If I can't put you forward for a particular role, I can definitely put you in touch with the right people to make that first approach, direct approach.
Yeah, so obviously thank you very much obviously for having us and for taking the time to listen to what we've got to say. Of course, if anyone's got any questions, we're more than happy to to at least try and answer them. If we don't know the answers, then we'll of course look into it. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, then fire away.